Welcome to another episode of Villains Collectibles. I'm your boy LC. And my mind went blank. The first time checking out your boy, make sure you guys smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell, and let you know when I got all types of videos, toy hunts, mail calls coming your way. I don't know what the hell is going on in my mind right now. Let's see. Once again, this is Variant Comics, one of the channels I be checking out. Real dope. Alright, let's see what they got.
Anyway, with all that covered, let's talk some Doom. Marvel's big Hall H announcement started with Marvel Studios' top dog Kevin Feige confirming that the Russo brothers are indeed returning to helm the next two Avengers movies, starting with a shift from Avengers Kang Dynasty to Avengers Doomsday in 2026, followed by Avengers Secret Wars to wrap up the multiverse saga. But after the Russo brothers took the mic and revealed that Dr. Doom would be entering the MCU in Doomsday, they shocked everyone when a masked Robert Downey Jr. stepped out from the crowd of people dressed as Dr. Doom to reveal that he would be returning to play a version of Victor Von Doom, or an alternate universe Tony Stark who became a version of Dr. Doom. The latter seems much more likely to me for a number of reasons, but especially because the first thing RDJ said after removing the Doom mask was, "New mask, same task," implying that in this role he will have the same motivations as Tony Stark Iron Man, but the character will take a much darker turn. Either way, while many are excited about this, overall this announcement has actually been pretty polarizing among fans, with a lot of people upset that we won't be getting the true 616 Victor Von Doom, calling it lazy and a desperate cash grab by Marvel. For us here at Variant, we fall into the excited camp because there is significant comic book precedent for the move and sound MCU-based reasoning for Marvel Studios to take this direction. And I'm going to be detailing all of those throughout today's episode. In fact, a number of channels like New Rockstars and Comics Explained have already done a great job detailing many of them since the announcement. But the one thing that is getting a bit lost in all the speculation and theorizing about why Marvel has brought back RDJ to play Dr. Doom is the simple and exciting fact that we are finally going to be getting Dr. Doom in the broader MCU. Not to mention, with the Russo brothers back on board to steer the ship, it has great potential to bring things to a much needed reset in a very cool way. So Eris and I are going to tag team on this episode to spotlight the overall history of Dr. Doom, including his origins and some of the character's key story arcs, with a focus on the comics that are the most likely influences for the MCU's direction for the character. And then I'll give you our take on why we think RDJ as Dr. Doom has a chance to hit on multiple fronts. So off we go. Dr. Doom, one of Marvel Comics' most iconic villains, was created by the legendary duo of writers Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby. And his first appearance in the Fantastic Four issue 5 in 1962 introduced a character that would quickly become one of Marvel's most popular big bads and a cornerstone of the Marvel Universe. The thing is, the real-world inspirations behind Dr. Doom's creation are as interesting as the character himself, blending elements of literature and history to shape this complex villain. To construct the character we now know as Victor Von Doom, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby seemingly drew inspiration from several places. For instance, it's been speculated that the tragic figure of Victor Frankenstein from Mary Shelley's classic novel influenced Doom, because while the connection has never been confirmed, like Frankenstein, Dr. Doom is a brilliant but flawed scientist whose arrogance and ego leads to his downfall. You can also easily see influences from Shakespearean characters like Macbeth and even tragic heroes of Greek mythology mixed into Doom's persona. But in addition to fictional influences, Lee and Kirby were also clearly inspired by historical dictators when shaping Victor Von Doom, as his authoritarian rule over the fictional nation of Latveria, driven by arrogance and vanity, allowed them to explore themes of absolute power, control, and the corrupting influence of both. Jack Kirby then took these concepts and embedded them into the visual design for Dr. Doom, incorporating elements from medieval knights, futuristic armor, and mysticism. It made for a very cool blend of futuristic and historical elements that gave Doom a distinctive and striking appearance. Keeping with some of those concepts, from a story perspective, Stan Lee's vision for Dr. Doom included a grandiose and operatic quality. He wanted Doom to be theatrical and memorable, with elaborate speech patterns and dramatic gestures, and this operatic flair made Doom a larger-than-life character who stood out in the Marvel Universe. Not to mention the intense personal rivalry between Dr. Doom and Reed Richards' Mr. Fantastic, which added another layer of complexity to the character. This classic trope of personal vendettas driving conflict made their battles compelling and relatable, as they emphasized the deep-seated conflict between the two characters. Add it all up, and you have a villain who is not only formidable in his physical and intellectual capabilities, but also deeply complex in his motivations and personality. As a result, Doctor Doom has become one of the greatest villains in comic book history and another major testament to the creative genius of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
The best origin for Doctor Doom is given to us in the Books of Doom 6-issue miniseries, where we see that when Victor Von Doom was a boy, he was the child of gypsies in Latveria. We learn that Victor's mother Cynthia delved into the black arts, which his father Werner begged her to stop doing, saying, "Think of your family, think of your son." She replies to her husband, "That's what I'm thinking of, Werner. Look at us. Our people are constantly in tatters, barely one step ahead of the Baron's persecution. But if we had some power, Victor's life, it could be better than this." So of course she doesn't stop dabbling in the black arts and called upon the demon Mephisto to use his power. The summoning of him worked, but not the way she thought. Mephisto manipulated her, filling her with a thirst for vengeance on the Baron's men, the soldiers who kept the gypsies on the run, who beat them and stole their money, who have done worse to the women. She killed several of the Baron's men, but when the demon's powers left, the survivors chased her down and killed her as we watch her die in her husband's arms. Her final words were begging her husband to keep Victor away from dark places, but as we all know, that didn't turn out to death trying to keep his son safe. That's right, this is a scene straight out of The Shining. A little while after this, Victor would find his mom's artifacts and mystical books. He would study them and teach himself sorcery, trying to free his mother's soul from Mephisto, but was unsuccessful. At some point, Victor was held at gunpoint by someone who was seeking an award to bring Victor into the Baron. But Victor was able to smack the gun away and choke the man to death. As Victor grew, he excelled in science and his achievements had become legendary. So much so, a US general tracked him down saying, "You're the famous Victor Von Doom I've heard about. You are a hard man to find, Von Doom." Victor replies, "By design. What can I do for you?" Doom explains to us that his achievements had become so legendary that this general had come all the way from the United States to track him down, apparently with some fear that his enemies would find him first. There were offers of money and opportunities to study in the finest schools and laboratories in the world. Victor tells us, "On any other day I might have struck a harder bargain, made them pay a higher price for my participation. But on this day, with my trembling hands, all I wanted was to be away from Latveria," and asks, "When can we leave?" This leads us to issue 2 of the series, where we see the general bring him to New York and shows Doom the lab he'll be working in. That's less than an hour from his state university. The general says to him, "Let's give you the grand tour, and then we'll take you to the campus to fill out your enrollment forms. There's another student we need you to meet there anyway." The other student, of course, is Reed Richards. The two were originally supposed to share a dorm room, but General Masterson had already arranged a room for Doom with a secret soundproof lab attached. Reed would quickly become Victor's academic rival, as we see when Victor is questioning Einstein's theory on time with his professor. Reed agrees and expands Victor's thoughts, but Victor just gets up and walks out of class saying, "Yes, it is Richards, but when I need your assistance on an argument, I'll ask for it." As the issue goes on, we see Doom create the first versions of what would become known as the Doombots, as well as creating a machine that could transverse back through time. Victor even created a machine to get his mother back, saying, "I'd finally found the synthesis between my mother's magics and the science that I dreamed of as a youth." The machine worked and took him to hell, where his mother was being held prisoner by Mephisto. When she sees her son, she says, "Not my beautiful boy, not here. Why has Werner let this come to pass? I begged him." Victor tells her, "But I came to save you, mother." When Mephisto sees him, he asks, "Who is this filthy little morsel, Cynthia? Not the beast that stewed in your black loins." She begs for mercy, at which point an explosion happens that Victor doesn't remember as he wakes up back on Earth in a hospital bed. But he says he will never forget the screams of his mother. This accident/explosion is what scarred Victor's face. The incident also led to him getting expelled from the university. From here, we would see Victor go to Tibet to train with monks, mastering their ways so well he became their leader, as seen in issue 4 of the series. In the same issue, we see Victor have the monks help him make his iconic armor, saying, "On my master stroke. Using what I learned in this temple, I would remove myself from this world. I would create a second skin. Adaptive technology would line the inner workings of the armor, and an enchantment would seal it from the demon's touch, keep him from my dreams. But the cold metal on my skin would remind me of his existence, and that he held my mother's soul captive in his realm, for now." Once forged, the monks put the armor on him, and he tells them, "Bring me my face." They say, "It is ready, master." And when he looks at it, he says, "It is perfect. Never again will mortal eyes gaze upon Victor Von Doom. From this moment on, there is only what I've become. There is only Dr. Doom."
Okay, so we have Doctor Doom's origin, but what about those story arcs we talked about? There are obviously quite a few incredible Doctor Doom story arcs that have hit the pages of Marvel Comics over the years, including Triumph and Torment, Black Panther Doom War, Doom 2099, Books of Doom, and many others, some of which we detailed in our original History of Doctor Doom episode. But as I mentioned at the open, we are going to focus on the 4 Doctor Doom stories that seem to be the primary inspirations for casting Robert Downey Jr. as Doom in the next 2 Avengers films. Anyway, Anyway, the 4 stories that seem most likely to be the prime inspirations for RDJ as Doctor Doom are Infamous Iron Man, What If Iron Man Demon in an Armor, Exiles with an Iron Fist, and of course, the Secret Wars storyline. And while some fans are expecting them to pull from one of these stories, we think Marvel will likely pull elements from most, if not all of them, that when mixed with certain pieces from the current MCU canon will create an entirely new story. And for our purposes today, I'm just going to give you a summary of the relevant aspects from each of the story arcs that I mentioned, and we'll start with Infamous Iron Man, which is a 12-issue series by Brian Michael Bendis. In Infamous Iron Man, we find ourselves after the events of Civil War II, where Victor Von Doom has decided to turn over a new leaf and atone for his past actions, particularly those during the Secret War story, by stepping into the role of Iron Man after Tony Stark's apparent death. But while Doom is trying to redeem himself by becoming a hero, his darker nature always seems to emerge. This storyline is potentially a key because it introduces the concept of Victor Von Doom adopting the Iron Man identity in order to act as a hero in his own way, which could be exactly where Marvel is headed with RDJ's character. Just imagine a Thanos-like version of Victor Von Doom who, maybe after his own world is destroyed by the Thanos of his universe, somehow crosses into the 616 sacred timeline, learns about Tony Stark's goal to put a suit of armor around the world, and steps into the role of Iron Man to fulfill it. But this is Doctor Doom, and while he tries to be the nice guy at first with a desire to protect the world, his darker tendencies cause him to turn into a tyrant to carry out his vision after the people of this Earth disagree with his plan. Always for the greater good, of course. But that's just one possibility. The next comes from What If Iron Man Demon in an Armor. This story is kind of a reversal of the characters we now know. Essentially, in an alternate timeline, Victor Von Doom and Tony Stark are college roommates, and after Doom discovers that Stark has a sharper mind than his own, he tricks Tony into helping him build a machine that would swap their minds. Once complete, he lures Tony into the machine and transfers his mind into Tony Stark's body and Tony's mind into his. He then completely wipes Tony's memory so he has no recollection of who he actually is, creating a situation where Stark, now in Latveria and stripped of his identity, is forced to live as a commoner while Doom enjoys the wealth and status of being a Stark. Now, if Marvel draws from this story, it would be an interesting way to give us RDJ as an alternate version of Tony Stark who has had his mind swapped with Victor Von Doom. This would not only create the immediately compelling element of the heroes of the MCU having to fight a villain that bears the face of their greatest hero, especially for Peter Parker, as Tony was a father figure and a mentor, but it would also pave the way for the true Doctor Doom to be revealed after the events of Avengers Secret Wars, where maybe Doom's mind or consciousness returns to his own body. Regardless, you can absolutely see important pieces throughout the Demon in an Armor story that Marvel could incorporate into the MCU. Then we have Exiles with an Iron Fist from Exiles 23 through 25. This story is set in an alternate universe, Earth 42777 to be specific, where Tony Stark has become a full-on authoritarian. To sum it up, Stark doesn't merge with Doom or anything like that in this story. Instead, this Tony Stark has declared himself President of the United States for life and the undisputed monarch of Earth. And the craziest part about this is to assume this role, Tony Stark effectively uses his wealth, power, and technology to form secret alliances with Magneto and Doctor Doom to induce a series of false flag events that wreak chaos on the world, leading to a mutant war that decimates the superhuman population and wipes out the elected officials of the United States. But after the plan was carried out, Stark kills both Magneto and Doctor Doom to eliminate his only rivals and consolidate all power to himself. And that leaves us with this completely savage version of Iron Man who wears Doctor Doom's tattered and torn cloak. It's pretty freaking wild, and if Marvel incorporates this version of Iron Man, RDJ could portray a version of Stark who is a complete and utter tyrant, a figure who has crossed every moral line to achieve ultimate control, and an Iron Man you could easily see becoming God Emperor Doom just before the Secret Wars movie, setting up a confrontation with the Avengers where they face off against a Tony Stark who embodies the worst traits of both himself and Doctor Doom. But again, to pull this off in a way that works, it will likely require pulling aspects from several of these stories and combining them, and that leads us to the Secret Wars story itself, where Doctor Doom becomes the God Emperor of Battleworld, wielding the powers of the Beyonders to reshape reality and force many of Marvel's heroes into subservient positions. This storyline is pivotal to understanding where it's all going for the multiverse saga and what pieces will likely be needed to make it all fit as a coherent story. It shows Doom at his most powerful, literally remaking the universe in his image. So whether RDJ plays a tyrannical version of Tony Stark who has taken up the Doctor Doom mantle, or one of the other iterations, he will absolutely become a multiversal threat by the time Avengers Secret Wars hits. And this won't just be a villain, this will be a character who has the power to control and reshape reality itself, forcing the Avengers to face a version of Tony Stark who has transcended into something far more dangerous and godlike, which is exactly the setup Marvel needs to create a soft reboot of the entire MCU, ushering in the mutant saga and era for the franchise. But here's the big takeaway. Marvel never really fully adapted adapts a comic storyline into the MCU. They take themes and pieces across Marvel's history for both characters and major story arcs like the Infinity War story and create their own version of it. And the Russo brothers are going to do exactly that to clean up and wrap up the multiverse saga, weaving together elements from these 4 iconic stories and possibly others to create a new alternate version of Iron Man Doctor Doom that's unique to the Marvel Universe. I know a lot of fans are unhappy about this decision, but I really think this could be a very fun way to bring everything back to a solid reset point while telling a very compelling story. And I also think it's interesting that they could use this story to follow a path for Tony Stark that is similar to what they did with Loki, but in reverse. And what I mean by that is, after Loki's death in Avengers Infinity War, they used the Endgame story and Loki series to extract Loki's past.
I cannot wait to finally see Loki back reunited with Thor. You know what I mean? That's gonna be real dope, really emotional. So can't wait. It's gonna happen. We're gonna see Loki again because the multiverse is going to collapse.
Self out of the sacred timeline and bring him into the TVA, where we see him face off with Kang and complete his story not just as a hero, but as the savior of the entire multiverse, literally holding and binding the timelines together. And with Tony Stark, it looks like they could be taking the MCU's greatest hero who sacrificed himself to save the entire world and bring him back in a way that has him consolidating power to the extent that he threatens the safety of the entire multiverse, effectively becoming the very thing the original Tony Stark Iron Man died to destroy. Now, you may not like that angle, but you have to admit, it's pretty clever. They'd effectively be taking the MCU's first hero and the first major villain and closing out this entire era for the MCU with stories that place them in opposite roles. It's an ambitious move that could pay off while simultaneously redefining what we know about the MCU and giving us a villain who's as complex as he is powerful. Now that wraps up the story arcs that could shape the rest of the multiverse saga for the MCU, and I highly recommend you guys grab those titles and read them before the Fantastic Four hits next summer. But before we wrap up, let's take a look at Doctor Doom's baseline powers and abilities.
First and foremost, Doctor Doom is one of the most powerful sorcerers.
Right. Check out everything Doctor Doom can do. And imagine Robert Downey Jr. having all of those abilities. Here we go.
In all of comic books. He is such a
and abilities.
First and foremost, Doctor Doom is one of the most powerful sorcerers in all of comic books. He is such a skilled sorcerer and master of the mystic arts that Doctor Strange himself said he has the potential to become the Sorcerer Supreme. Which, funny enough, a future version of Doctor Doom actually did become the Sorcerer Supreme. Strange has even said that Doom knows things about the dark arts that have long been forgotten that even he doesn't know about. As for a quick rundown, he's a master of mystical blasts, mystical force fields, spell casting, summoning, teleportation, dimensional travel, mystical portals, and even mind transference. He once trained with an alien race called the Ovoids, giving him the ability to switch his mind with another person nearby just by making eye contact. Then obviously Doctor Doom has a genius level intellect. His mind is quite literally what makes him such a dangerous villain. He is without question one of the top human minds in all of the Marvel Universe, easily top 3. His suit of armor also gives him superhuman strength, allowing him to lift up to 2 tons, incredible durability, sensory systems, solar energy absorption, video communicator, concussive blast, and infrared vision. All those things combined make him one of the most formidable characters in not just Marvel, but all of comics.
All right, my people, that does it for this episode. Let us know what you think about all this and the direction things are headed with RDJ as the first MCU Doctor Doom.
Check it out, guys. If you guys like what you're seeing, do me a favor. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. If you like what you're seeing, smash that like. It does help out the channel. Ring the bell. It'll let you know when I got all types of videos and live streams, gaming streams coming your way. All right, guys. So, and shouts out to everybody in the chat and in the comments. On that one, guys, this was dope. This was awesome. This has been another episode of Heroes and Villains Collectibles. I'm your boy, LC. Until next time, guys. Peace.